So this podcast is kind of about kindness.
About kindness.
It's about kindness.
And love.
And things that people have done to be kind to us. And a little bit of what we've done to be kind to others.
Yeah.
Some.
And what we hope out of this is that it kind of just brightens your day a little bit and like kind of reminds you to have an attitude of gratitude and to also be kind.
Yeah, and receive kindness.
And go out looking for it. Like, go out and try to find it and try to give because, man.
Yeah, make someone's day. You could make someone's life. You certainly make their day.
Change someone's life.
Yeah, so, have a listen.
You're listening to Fit and Hippie with Dori and Lori. The show is about... the show that covers... the show that gets into...
Exactly!
Hey, Lori.
Hey, Dori. We're here again.
We are. And I'm going to have lots of energy today. I hope.
5-day... This is
my
the
last
end
day
of your 5-day water fast.
I made it. I struggled so much on my last one because I don't think my body was ready after cancer.
I agree.
But this time I sailed through it. In fact, Jeff even looked at me on day 3 and he goes, "You never even complain when you're on a water fast."
Yeah, we went on a big walk on day 3 up that huge hill and everything, and I can hardly get out of bed on day 3 when I'm on a water
and
fast.
I just felt good the whole time. There was one moment, like it was later in the afternoon where I was kind of like tired. Then I snapped back at it, and my worst night actually was last night. I don't know what it is. So when you do a water fast, a lot of times at night your body releases adrenaline. Man, it was pumping last night because I could not sleep. I woke up. I went to bed at 9:30. I woke up at 10:15, again at 11:40, 12:15, 1 something, 2 something, 3. And finally at 4:20, I'm like, screw it. I'm up. I'm out of here.
That's why you look a little tired today.
Maybe that's why.
Yeah. Because I was
it might be all the sex I'm
5-day
having,
fast. Dori.
But certainly.
Let's talk about sex, baby.
Well, after we had Casey on,
that was so good. We're going to have Casey back again, too.
We got to, because, boy, she got me all riled up to try new things.
That was awesome.
Anyways.
So, whether it's before or after this, you got to listen to Casey's interview. So, okay, well, we're going to talk about, we thought this would be kind of fun because Sean and I were kind of reminiscing on some of these kindnesses of strangers in our life. And then you and I were talking about that also.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's nice to hear the stories of what people do and remember that we can be that stranger too.
I think most people not only appreciate kindness, but I think that most everybody has kindness in them. Yeah. And even if they don't recognize that they're doing a kind act, I think they all do. We all do. And we need to recognize that. And when we see it in somebody else, we need to be grateful and thankful and try to spread that around, And
sometimes a kind thing that you do for someone can change their life.
Oh,
this is absolutely. One thing that I remember. There was a time in my life where literally had no money. And I remember going to the grocery store. It was just would stress me out. We had 5 little kids. My husband owned a business, but he wasn't paying himself a salary because we were having some trouble. He was paying everybody else. And we went for quite a while without any money.
Wow.
And I would go to the grocery store and walk down the aisle, stress about what I was going to buy. And one time I was in the grocery store going through the checkout and somebody paid for my groceries. And it wasn't a lot. I didn't have a lot. No.
They didn't know you. They just had this feeling. Probably
it was somebody behind me that just decided that they wanted to pay for my groceries. And I just wanted to cry. And later on in my life, I was at that same grocery store and there was a lady in front of me who had groceries and not enough money. So she was starting to put stuff back like, okay, I won't get this, I won't get this. And I just said, hey, wait, put that on mine because I'll pay for that. I mean, it was so nice to be able to pay it back. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That I had somebody do that for me, and then I was able to do that for someone else, and she just couldn't believe it. She was like, what? Why are you doing that? Yeah. And I explained to her, hey, I've been in this situation where I couldn't hardly get anything, and somebody was kind enough to pay for those
That
groceries
is so
for
precious.
me. So those kinds of things are
That's
huge.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when you're just struggling penny by penny and somebody just is generous to you. And I just need to be thinking of that more, as I go along in my day, wherever I am. But
yeah, and it doesn't have to be around holidays. I think we think of giving around
this wasn't
holidays
at all. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And those times are very stressful if you don't have any money because you want to be able to bless your kids or whatever, and you can't do that if you don't have the money, and that can be excruciating.
Yeah, no kidding. Especially with little kids.
Yeah, I was always grateful that my parents and my husband's parents then were generous to my kids so that they got stuff from them, even if we could only afford something really little. It's all good.
Well, so go ahead and start with one. Besides that one.
Okay.
Was that one on your list, or you were just kind of...
Nope, that wasn't on my list. It
Okay.
just came to my mind. So I figured once we started talking, more things would come to our mind. But
well, you already said you have something.
I
It's all
do.
about cars.
I have a few on here. One thing that I thought was
Comedians and
so
cars.
cool is that Sean and I were filming out in nowhere, South Dakota. And it was... yeah, off the radar. There was not even cell reception or anything. So when we got there, we had to get on some Wi-Fi to figure out how to get out of there. And we figured out, okay, this is how we came in. We need to go out this way, and we need to get gas on the way out.
Yeah.
So in the process of our packing up our gear and talking to people and all that, we just headed out of town, forgot to get gas, and took a wrong turn. We didn't turn where we were supposed to. So we were out in the middle of nowhere. We didn't know, we couldn't get our GPS to work. And we were like on empty. So the more we drove, it was like, oh my gosh, what the heck? We're in the middle of stinking nowhere.
You didn't see any cars
We were
coming
going to
by?
run out of gas.
None.
Barely. And then we were like, well, do we pull over off the side of the road and try to flag somebody down? Because we're going to run out of gas. So we come up to a ranch. There's a ranch on the left side. We're driving up, and I'm like, well, there's a ranch. Sometimes they have gas.
Yeah.
And so it was a pretty big ranch, so we drove into their driveway. I mean, how stupid do you feel? So we drove into their driveway and knocked on it was like their back door, their sliding glass door. This is like, okay. So Sean goes up and he knocks on the door, and he says, hey, we got lost. We're in the middle of, they know where they are.
Yeah.
And we are almost out of gas. Can we pay you for some gas just so that we can get where we need to be, so we can get more gas? We just need a little bit to get us by. And some directions.
And by the way, can you tell me where to go?
And some
How to get the
directions.
hell out of this like Bermuda Triangle of the desert?
And she was so kind. And they actually had a huge gas tank. They must fill up their vehicles and all that. So she gave us some gas, wouldn't let us pay for it, and told us, where we were and which way to go, and sent us on our way. And I will never forget that. Because people like that in the middle of nowhere that live there, I'm sure that they understand that those kinds of things can happen, but they don't have to be nice.
No, and I wonder how many times that has happened to them, or if you were the first one, or
I don't know,
or if they just keep gas around for the random people that take a wrong turn and end up at their ranch.
I know they have like tractors and things, that's vehicles that they have to fill up.
But I'm thinking,
here we'll be the gas station. But she could have taken, because we offered her like $20 for a couple gallons.
Yeah.
Just because we just need to get home.
Yeah, the heck out.
And she was like, no. Just
what a sweetheart.
Be on your way, yeah. So I even took a picture of the name of the ranch. I don't remember it now, but in the middle of South Dakota. Thank you if you are listening. No,
no kidding.
Like that was pretty freaking amazing. And we drove out of there just thinking, wow. What would we have done?
I don't. Yeah. You could have ended up spending the night in your car and never seen another car for.
Oh, yeah.
Ever,
For sure.
Well, speaking of being out in the middle of nowhere, so when my children were little, my husband and I at the time moved to Bakersfield, California from Lancaster, which is where I grew up. And in the transition, so this is about, it's about an 80-mile drive between Lancaster and Bakersfield. Maybe 100, somewhere around there, 80 to 100-mile drive. So in the transition of us transferring over to where I would just work there, I was still driving back to Lancaster 2 or 3 times a week.
Wow.
And I would bring my my daughter at the time, because my son was in school, so he was just in first grade. So he was in school all day, so I would come to Lancaster with Brittany, and I'd drive the back roads so I didn't have to be on the freeway and stuff, and it was just faster.
So how old was she?
She was like maybe 18 months.
Yeah, pretty little.
Yeah, she was little. And so, she was not even 2 yet, because we moved there shortly after she turned 1.
Okay.
So, and so I would drive the back roads also because where I grew up in Lancaster, my dad was still there, and he would babysit her while I would go and train people at the gym and then come back and pick her up and go home. So one day, and this was in December, it was around Christmas time. Now, mind you, we're in the Mojave Desert, so it's not super cold, right? It's still,
thank God,
it's still kind of
it's
warm.
not here.
But, we have cold days and stuff, and every now and again it would snow, but that was rare. So I'm driving the road, and I'm serious when I'm saying there's more than 50 to 60 miles of you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, desert.
And
really.
Exactly. Like tumbleweeds, Joshua trees, and a one-way highway,
Yeah.
And so I'm driving down the same road as I always do, and my car breaks down. Literally in the middle of nowhere. I'm probably about 30 miles from my dad's house.
With your baby.
With my baby.
Gosh.
And we have coyotes out there.
Oh,
and so my thought is, I could walk 30 miles, but oh my gosh. And, walking down that highway in the desert.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to do, so I had to get out of the car.
Yeah.
So I have my baby, and I'm carrying her on my hip, and I'm walking down the road, and the next thing you know, I see this big trucker coming my way from, same direction as I was going. And he pulled over, and he had a big Christmas wreath on the front of his truck.
So it was a trucker, like a
semi.
Okay,
he was carrying a load. And so I was like, oh no, and he gets out of the truck, and he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, well, my car broke down. And he's like, well, can I give you a ride? And like, I'm stuck. Like, what do I say? No, I'm good, dude. Go ahead.
Oh my
so
gosh.
I'm like, that would be great, and it was hard to tell, if he was a nice guy or not. I mean, he seemed nice enough. But the weird thing was, I couldn't get in on the passenger side. I had to crawl in through his driver's side.
Why?
Because he had like a cooler that sat on the passenger side. So I had to sit right next to him, holding Brittany, and I'm sitting right next to the guy. And I'm just like,
that's kind of weird.
This could turn out really, really bad.
Yeah.
Like, I have no out.
Yeah.
I have no out.
And you're so vulnerable with your child.
So vulnerable. Yeah, even without my child, I was vulnerable.
But I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, that was even worse. Yeah. And so I was just so nervous. And then I start looking around the cab, and he's got pictures of kids and his wife and stuff. And he starts telling him how he's like not going to be able to be home for Christmas. And just talking about his children and stuff. And he drove me all the way to my dad's, just to the street where we did, because our street was a dirt road, and he couldn't take the big semi down there because he would have never been able to turn around. And I was able to walk. And he was the nicest guy, and I think his name was Randy. If I remember, he had red hair Randy, his beard. And so, that
stuff like that could turn out bad.
That could have turned out bad, but how kind of him to go. And he kind of had to go out of his way, because he would have stayed on that highway. And when we got to where we returned, he had to go at least 15 miles out of his way to drop me off. Yeah, and then turn around and go that 15 miles back out of the way.
Yeah, I love that.
So that was a good story that turned in, a nice, kind tale.
Yeah, and most of the stories that I've thought about, are road trip kind of stories. Yeah. So another one, we were traveling from South Dakota to Denver, Colorado. It's about a 5-6 hour drive. And we got a flat tire. And so we pull over on the highway. We are like yards from an exit, though. I mean, it just couldn't have happened in a better place.
Right.
So we pulled over. Sean's like, oh, great, we got to change the tire. We had his daughter in the car with us, too. And the tire was, our spare was flat.
Oh, jeez.
So we couldn't change it into
check
the
their spare when they're going on a trip? Come on.
I guess sometimes we just take advantage that it's going to be all right.
We don't know.
I don't ever think to check the spare. You just assume it's okay. So the spare was flat, the tire was flat, so we kind of slowly just kind of limped up to the top of